So I'm just making sure that I can demonstrate this process for you from the instructor perspective. That way you get to see everything exactly the same when you go through this, if you choose to participate. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brett Clayton. I am a learning technology specialist, and I work for the Center for Teaching and Learning. I'm happy to walk you through today's training and show you how the PASS program works. I'll do a little bit of background as well, and just so you have some context for how this came to be. So let's share my screen. Okay, so if I can get just a thumbs up from someone to let me know that they can see DC Connect and they're seeing a set of courses. Yep, great, thank you so much. So here we are in DC Connect, and there is a course in here called the PASS program. And this is the resource that faculty can use to implement this program in their course. So the way this process works is you would request to be enrolled in this course, and you would be enrolled as a content copier. And what that means is you can access the course and you can see some of the material, but you cannot see all of the features. That's characteristic of the content copier role. It allows you to copy material out of a resource or a source, but you can't see any student data. Now, in this case, it's not relevant because there is no student data for you to see, but you're able to see it and copy it, but you're not able to change anything in this PASS program course. The intention is that you would copy this either into your DC Connect course, your CRN, or you could bring it over into a sandbox and learn how to play with it. It's up to you. But in here, if we visit the content, what you'll see is a module called PASS program that is hidden, and this is deliberate. It's so that this resource, should you decide to bring it directly into one of your courses, it will arrive in the hidden state and your students don't see the wizard behind the curtain. And I'll do an overview, and then we'll talk about the two different ways we can implement this. We can either copy it into your course and just have it run with some minor updates. It's not quite plug and play. We do need to make updates to the resource so that it's personalized. It has your name and your information attached to things. But if you're the type of person who wants to build things a little more from scratch, there is a way to do that, and there are certainly resources for you. So let's just take a look at what it is. Okay, so this performance alert and support system. The origin of this program actually came from Student Academic Learning Services, more specifically, ways to try and support our faculty of business and their first year accounting. So Accounting 1200, historically, and this is not an institutional problem, this is a, first year business across all colleges in North America type of problem, is that has a very high failure and attrition rate. Students don't like it, especially if they're not accounting students. So you've got your marketing students, you've got your advertising students, you've got your human resources students. They all have to take Accounting 1200 as some sort of foundational part of their program. But they're not interested in those numbers. That's someone else's department. So it's very difficult to engage and connect with those students. And this was one way or one effort to try and bolster their engagement. And so the system will monitor what their grade is at several points or 3 points in the semester, and it will reach out to them and offer them supports if they need it, or to encourage them to access supports. It may tell them they're doing a great job and to keep up that good work. That's what's happening in this PASS program. It's a notification system that's monitoring their grades, and then we'll send out information at certain scheduled points. The nice thing about it is we can, with some of the features of DC Connect, we can tailor and personalize some of this information, which is nice. And we can also run reports that help us sort of see a pattern within a course and maybe reach out to students, or at least pass on that information to our student coordinators or student advisors within our different schools. Faculties, my apologies. Okay. What else can we say? Yeah, the whole point of this is just to help them understand where they are and where they need to go based on their goals. And let's see. Yeah. It is probably important, if you choose to implement the PASS program, to make sure your students are aware that it's happening in your program or in your course, and then also encourage them, and we have to do this as much as possible, encourage them to be accessing their DC mail, because that's where all of this communication is going to wind up. Anything that we send them from DC Connect will wind up in their DC mail, so they do have to actively engage and visit that, either by connecting that account to their phone or by directly accessing it through just the DC mail internet address. Okay, so that's the sort of an overview. The details or the specifics of how it works is that in DC Connect, there's a tool called an intelligent agent. And that is a sort of like an app that runs in the background of your course, and it can do, or it can monitor, a lot of different things. It does only one thing, which is check to see if something is true. And if it's true, sends an email. Whether that email goes to your student or to you, that depends on how you set it up. But at its core, it's going to monitor something. There's a condition, and if that thing is true, it does something. If it's not true, it does nothing. And fortunately, what we can do is have the intelligent agent monitor their final calculated grade, and based on where that is, according to these benchmarks, 50 or lower, 51 to 60, or 61 or higher, it will send three versions, or one of three versions of a letter. They'll get a green letter, a yellow letter, or a red letter. So what we recommend is that you run this at a very specific schedule, weeks 4, 7, and 9. And then you could run a report the subsequent week to see who got which letter. Now, I want to make it clear that week 4, 7, and 9 are not the calendar weeks of a course. They're the academic weeks, because we do know that week 8 is reading week. So week 9 is not the 8th, or is not the 9th week of the course. It's the, whatever it is, I think the 10th week. So we want to make sure that this information happens, but we also want to make sure students are made aware of things, so that we have this optional letter called Red Letter 2. And what that is intended to do is make students aware that they've reached a point in the semester that they probably aren't going to be successful. And if they want to withdraw, they need to do so by this date. Otherwise, they will wind up with a failing grade as opposed to a W on their transcript. We don't want to affect their GPA. We want them to be aware of that. So these are different benchmarks and ways of helping the student make informed decisions. Okay, so what we have here is, the boilerplate text of what the letters will look like. We have these banners, and they're already the part of this program. We have the text that you will personalize. So we have examples of the letters here for you. Within each, there are links to different things. The red letter specifically has lots of supports links to SALS and the ASC and financial aid, etc. We don't know why a student is unsuccessful in a course, but if we give them different options for accessing resources, hopefully something there will be what they need. Okay. So we have this overall process of, you start the whole thing by setting up your system. You have your different intelligent agents monitoring what they are supposed to monitor. You have tailored and updated the email portion so that they are coming from you. Any advisors that have been referenced are the proper advisors from your faculty office, etc. And then you set the schedule of when it will run. Then agents will run on weeks 4, 7, and 9. And then the following week, you can run these reports, which will help you understand sort of the landscape of your students and where their success lies. Okay, and if you need help with any of these things, you're going to reach out to us in CTL and we'll help you get this moving along. So the reports that run the subsequent week after that the agents have been active, all you're doing here, there's step-by-step instructions of going into the agent tool, and we'll take a look at this when we get a little deeper into this training. But all of this, is here for you. You're going to get to the history, and it's going to wind up putting out an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV, which you can then review and see which students got which letter, and you have the sort of legacy to review or to utilize however you see fit. And then lastly, once the semester is over, what we can do is prepare for the next semester. What we're doing here is simply taking last semester's course, and if you transition this through a sandbox or however you update your course materials, ultimately all of this gets migrated into your new semester. And when you do so, you will need to re-enable the agents, and you will need to update the schedule. And maybe if if the staffing has changed, you might be able to have to change some names. But at that point, it's just a matter of sort of upkeeping and updating and refreshing what you've started and in preparation for the next semester, because all of these agents will disable during the copy process. So that's sort of an overview of the whole thing. Do we have any questions before I continue with how we would, technically make this happen? Okay. So all I'm going to do as an example is take this, I'm going to copy the past program into a sandbox, and we'll take a look at what arrives and how we can unpack and make those updates. So in this particular case, let's see, this one has a bunch of stuff in it. So I'm going to pretend that in this is a sandbox. I'm going to be adding the past program to this course. And the first step is to go to the destination and copy in the past program material. So if I were to go to course admin, I would then do the import, export, copy process. I would search for the offering. We can just type in the past program. That's the name of the resource. Grab this and add selected. And no matter what, I can just copy in everything. Shouldn't take too long, and then we'll take a look at what arrives. Once you are enrolled in the past program, you can always reference that course as a resource, especially if you're going to be building things on your own. Okay. So here in the sandbox, I have all of this stuff, but the past program did arrive. It's in my module, or over here in this module, and it has arrived in the hidden state so the students couldn't see it. So if I now take a look, this is what I'm doing, the simple copy, and the instructions that are here, I'm just replicating what it's suggesting that I do. Went to the course I wanted the past program to be in. I then did the copy, and I copied everything. The next thing I need to do, if I'm going to do just this simple copy, I'm not building anything from scratch, I need to now go in and enable and update the agents. And I'm going to find those in course admin. So up at the top navigation, I have the course admin link. And then at the bottom left, I have these intelligent agents. I can grab those. And I've got agents from this course from a previous semester. But really what I'm looking at down here is the letters, the green letter, red letter, week 10, and yellow letter. So each of these agents already exists, and there's information that I need to update. So I'll start with the red letter as an example, because it's got a lot more content to it. So if I click on the action menu for that letter and I click edit, I can now begin updating this particular letter. So it's red letter. I'm not going to change the name, but I do need to enable it. It won't run. It won't serve its purpose unless it's enabled, and they always arrive in a disabled state. So the next thing I need to do is make sure it has, it's going to run on a schedule. We're recommending that we run it on the Monday of week 4. So if I'm going to look, for example, this calendar year, next week is week 1, which means week 4, I've got it as Monday, September 25th. So here we go. I'm going to run it weekly, every 3 weeks. So 4, 7, 9. So this is where that sort of calendar and academic week sort of misaligns, because it's 4, 7, and 9 on the calendar, but it's 4, 7, and 10 on the academic. So if I choose Monday, and I could choose the time, perhaps I'll just say it'll run at noon. Or if I know that, hey, according to my marking, I'll probably have marks in by 8 p.m. that night. Okay, so I would choose my start date as being that Monday. That's Monday the 25th. That's week 4. Okay. And so here's where we need to be careful and make sure that those dates run well, right? So, okay, so that's 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I want to run it. It has to end every 3 weeks by November 6th is my week 9. So it's going to, 4, 7, and 9. Okay. So that's just making sure that the schedule is set up. So I have that piece ready to go. I can move on to the criteria. The criteria already has been set, right? This is prepackaged for us. So all of the students are there, and it uses what is called a release condition. So this is just sort of a rule that's in place that will be evaluated whether or not it is true or not. So if the final grade is released and is less than or equal to 50%, any student who meets this criteria will receive this letter to their DC mail. And the action here is the sending an email. The repetition is how many times they're going to get this letter. And in this case, we want it to be every time because this agent is running multiple times, and we want the student to be receiving this information every time, right? So if they get a red letter once, maybe they'll get a yellow letter the second time and a green letter the third time. That's a beautiful arc for our student. But sometimes it will be in the opposite direction. But we do want them to always receive this. Just because they received a red letter last time doesn't mean they shouldn't receive a red letter the second or third time this runs. So that's the repetition. We leave it set that way. We want to send an email. For the to field, there's a very special, what's called a replace string here. And what this means is every student will be evaluated, and any student that meets the condition, they will have this email sent to their email address, and then the system will swap out for the next student. So the students will not see each other. They won't know who got this letter. That report will tell you later on, but each individual email will only have that student's email address on it. So the subject is just the past program alert. And then in the message itself, there is a box here, and this might look confusing. Don't worry about that. That box is the banner image, and it's just displaying this way because the actual file that's supporting the email is here as an attachment. until they have, unless they've changed something, this will arrive properly with the banner at the top. It'll look pretty. Again, we use one of these replace strings. This one's slightly different. We use initiating user first name, and all this does is swap in the first name of that student, whatever the first name is in DC Connect. And this is really where we need to do the review, right? We're looking through here and we're looking for, here we go, if you would prefer to have an appointment with myself. So this is where you would put, you know, Brett.Clayton at durhamcollege.ca. Right, we would put that there, or your student advisor, and then you would find the email from your student advisor. You would put that here. So going through and making that personalization as part of this message. But otherwise, the content is set up for you. The links are set up for you. The structure is set up for you, and it's hopefully just ready to go. Okay, and then if I click Save and Close, that agent, which is red letter, will run on Monday, September 25th at 8 p.m. And any student who satisfies that criteria will get this letter. A very, very important piece of this is in the grades, the final calculated grade must be revealed, must be visible to your students. It has to be released. And the way to check that would be on the Enter Grades page. When you look in this column, the final calculated grade, you should see that there's an icon in this column, but it should also be an open eye. In this case, it is not, because I've been mucking about in the sandbox in the past. So I could make it visible to my students by clicking on the action menu, choosing Enter Grades, and ensuring that every student has a check next to released. The fastest way to do that is to select the whole list and then use this release unrelease to make sure that this checkbox is there when all of your students are displayed. Sometimes it can be, you know, if you have a lot of students, you have 40 students on one page and 10 on the next, we have to change our pagination here so that we display all of the students, make sure they all have a check mark, and then I know that the pass system will work because the final calculated grade is released to students. Okay. So that is the simple copy. You've copied the whole package into your course, whichever they might be, and then you've made adjustments to your agents, and they will live on in the background and carry out what you need them to do. If you would like to write your own letters and make things a little bit different, there's nothing stopping you. We have this do-it-yourself section where you're kind of doing the same thing. Instead of just using the agents we've created, you'll be making your own agents. And we've provided banners. If you want to use these banners, you can download them and then add them to your agents subsequently. They're all there for you. We have a Word document, which is the text. If you want to use this text as a starting point, you can copy this and use that for the body of your agent, the email, or you just write whatever you want. Nothing stopping you there. And then last but not least, we have the steps describing all of the, we have a resource here for describing the steps of making your agent, which is simply accessing the tool and then doing what I just did as an overview of setting, giving it a name, setting the schedule, enabling it, making sure that the different moving parts are set up properly in terms of the release condition. That's what these steps are describing for you. If you're interested in using agents for other reasons, this is probably a good resource to help you become familiar with the tool. And that's all this is doing. It's just going through the description of when to set up those, or how to set up those agents. Okay, so that's the PASS program. It is a sort of out-of-the-box type of system of notifying students about how they're doing in the semester. It relies on them actually going in and checking their DC mail. So we encourage you to encourage them to check that. And it's yours to use as much or as little as you'd like. Does anyone have any questions about the PASS program or intelligent agents or anything that we've covered today?
Hi, Brad. I have a
Hi.
question.
For sure.
Hi. So I looked at the list of courses and I don't see PASS under the list of courses. How can I access those resources?
Sure. So the simplest thing to do would be to email dcconnect@durhamcollegeca and say, hey, please add me to the PASS program. And then I will make that happen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. That's an excellent question. Thank you for that.
Is
we lose
there
Sue?
more? Sorry.
No, there's not more. It should hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay.
That should be it.
Okay. So is like, if I want to learn how to enable, like, you know how like on the side, like on DC Connect, you can see like the professors can post their picture and profile. Like, should I just book an appointment with you to learn how to do that?
It's a little outside the scope of this conversation, but yes, you can absolutely do that.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we've used half the time that's been allotted, and maybe we could use the other half for, going for a walk on a beautiful day before it gets cold, or finishing our lunch, or, grabbing our afternoon coffee. I mean, there's lots of options how we can use this time.
Awesome. I don't think anyone's going to complain about getting half an hour back, Brett. So thank you again so much for hosting. We will definitely share this resource with our dual credit instructors. I've got a email template ready to go. So as soon as I upload this, I will shoot that out. And thank you all of the faculty who did have the opportunity to attend today. I will still email you a copy of the recording in case you want to go back. There's lots of steps, and DC Connect can be a little bit tricky. So that recording will be available to you if you want to go back and reference it. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Should you have any questions, obviously the CTL team and Brett, everybody's available to help. You can reach out to us as well. And here's to a happy startup.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.